This is an extremely rare 56-year-old rig that just screams vintage four-wheel drive. So I'm browsing through Brink Trailer this week, going through the truck and 4x4 category, and this 1967 International Harvester Travelall 1200B 4x4 just jumped off the page at me. I think it's the rare combination of the originality combined with this badass lift and 35-inch tires. But before we launch into today's example, if you're new to the channel, I'm Trey, and this is Vintage Four-Wheel Auctions. We vet all the truck and 4x4 category auctions on Bring a Trailer and highlight only the top tier of the vehicles from this segment. So if you're in the vintage SUV market, you'll want to keep an eye on these auctions. With each video, it's our objective to discuss and show you what to look for in a vintage SUV and what to avoid. Our hope is this simple video format also encourages interaction with viewers on the vehicle condition and ending price points. This is a third generation International Travelall. The third generation Travelall spanned from 1961 to 68. The more familiar Travelall was the fourth and final generation, which ranged from 1969 to the last year of 1975. We'll get into more of the history though later in the video. This one has a low 36,000 miles shown. I'm curious if these are original miles. We'll make sure to review the comments where it could be validated. This Travelall has a V8 with a 4-speed manual transmission. It's finished in a lovely beige paint with beige vinyl and cloth upholstery. Has the very nice looking 16.5-inch steel wheels with 35-inch tires and an aftermarket lift. As an added bonus, this one does have air conditioning, which I would imagine was somewhat rare for a 67 utility vehicle. This also features the barn-style rear doors. I think International called them panel doors. They also made these rigs with a wagon-style tailgate, but I think it looks much cooler with the barn doors. This badass Travelall is located in beautiful Durango, Colorado. Trust me, you'll get to see some beautiful countryside with these awesome pictures. This is being sold by an active Bring a Trailer member with 6 listing sales and 3 wins as a buyer. The gentleman looks to be an avid vintage four-wheel drive guy with sales of Scouts and Broncos. This one Scout was rad. I had my eye on it last week. Didn't realize it was the same seller. So it's coming down to the wire. We've got 3 days left on this auction. There are currently 9 bids to $18,500. And currently there are a whopping 64 comments on the auction. I know I said this before, but I gauge interest in an auction by the number of comments. This is a very active auction. I think we have a long way from where this one will close in 3 days at $18,500. We'll review historical pricing for the Travelall later in the video, so make sure to stay tuned. Before we jump into the pros and cons of this 1967 International Travelall 4x4, let's take a look at the history of this model. In 1953, International introduced the R Series truck range. I actually just saw one of these today at a local car show. They are awesome. Travelall replaced the wood-bodied station wagons. The first gen Travelall was a windowed panel van fitted with either 2 or 3 rear seats. Similar to station wagons at the time, you could access the rear seats by flipping up the passenger side front seat. Rear twin panel doors were standard with the wagon-style tailgate offered as an option. For the 1958 model year, International introduced the second generation Travelall with the A and B series trucks. This generation would only last a short 2 years, but it was significant because it was the first series where the four-wheel drive was an option. It effectively ushered in the more modern, if I can use that, versions like the 1967 Travelall 1200B 4x4. Then fast forward to model year 1961, International introduced the third generation Travelall, which ran from 1961 to 1968. This so-called C series had a redesigned chassis, all new frame, an independent front suspension with front torsion bars. The other big changes for the third generation were that the wheelbase was extended to 119 inches. It also saw an increase in the front clearance angle due to the International mounting the body lower on the frame. This is obviously better for off-road use. Now let's get back to this auction that is live on Bring a Trailer. Let's look at the pros and the cons of this 1967 Travelall 1200B 4x4. First with the pros, it is a Travelall 4x4 with 35-inch tires and a lift. You don't get much cooler than that. I love the originality with this Travelall. Other than the tires, wheels, and lift, it's mostly original. For the year, this thing was heavily optioned, which is rare. This Travelall includes factory options like power steering, power-assisted drum brakes in all 4 corners, custom interior trim, barn-style rear doors, a receiver hitch, an auxiliary fuel tank, air conditioning, and a push-button radio. This rig also has a 4-speed manual transmission, so 3-pedal model, definitely a plus. From the looks of it in the pictures, this also seems to be very dry with minimal or no corrosion on the undercarriage, which is also very rare for a 56-year-old vintage 4x4. It appears this thing was loved. Also a plus, I just love the barn doors on this thing. It looks awesome. So quick review of the cons. We'll definitely review this with a fine-tooth comb when we look at the pictures. But after my first pass, I'm hard-pressed to find many flaws with this 1967 International Travelall. I do see some minor scratches with interior paint by the wheel wells. Very minor, especially for a 56-year-old rig. The only other negative I saw in the listing was there's a hole in the headliner, but honestly, that's so small, I just replace it myself. Totally easy to overlook this with this one. So, curveball here. Well, this is obviously a 56-year-old vintage 4x4, so there is no CARFAX. But what I did think was incredibly cool with this 67 Travelall is that it comes with a build sheet and the line setting ticket. I love learning more about the history of these rigs, so I thought it was super cool that the build sheet listed a suggested price of $4,672, roughly $5,000. That same $5,000 in 1967 will be around $46,000 today, which I thought was crazy. For that price, you barely get the most entry-level 2023 Ford Bronco or equivalent, which is obviously nowhere as cool and nowhere as overbuilt or engineered as this Travelall. Before we jump into the pictures, we always review the comment section first. As I've said with previous episodes, this is a best practice that can save you time when you're looking through pictures. And that's primarily because the Bring a Trailer audience has extensive knowledge on these marquee vehicles. We'll see here, it is pretty common for commenters to call out areas of concern like rust, paint or mechanical abnormalities, or potential mechanical watchouts. So this is funny, it really just illustrates how fast these auctions move. So you may hear earlier in the video that the car was at 18.5. Since then, it's jumped to 22,000. It's got 68 comments. Like I said, this is an active auction. You'll see why. We'll check out the comments. We'll check out the pictures. So this commenter says, max height. If it can't fit in the garage, I'm out. This baby deserves too much care at a minimum. I agree. The seller does respond with it's 6 foot 7 inches tall. This is a tall vehicle. This commenter says, good man, thank you. I can't stop looking at this rig. A mix, old cool, old school, and timeless look that everyone wants to see in their driveway. This is a really impressive vehicle. This commenter says, this is truly the nicest Travelall I've seen. Plenty of glass on that one. Great rig. I couldn't agree more. That was one of the things that jumped out to me. I'll highlight that in the pictures. So like we said, 68 comments. There's a lot here. I did not see anything about the mileage, whether it was true mileage or not. I have to think it is not, but judging by the condition of this vehicle, it very may well be. So let's jump into the pictures. This auction has 149 pictures. I've mentioned that best in class when you're looking at an auction on Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids is at least 100 pictures minimum. So I love this first picture. It's what we were talking about in the comments. All this glass, it's impressive. I'm also a big fan of the 16.5-inch wheel with the 35-inch tires. It's a very nice look. I've got to say, not only am I impressed with this 1967 Travelall 4x4, I'm also very impressed with this photography. What a beautiful location. In that grass, where does Garrett live? Simply beautiful. Now, the front end on this third generation Travelall changed over the years. It first started with a concave grille. I gotta say, I really like this with the 2 round headlights. You've heard me talk about I like the heritage badging on these Land Cruisers. I've also got to say I really like this International Harvester logo here on the front. That insignia is very nice looking, very retro. Another thing is I've spent more time in these pictures. This kind of cream white color has really grown on me. It looks very clean and very retro. I like this side picture here in picture 22. Not only do you get to see just how much glass this thing has, but I love that kind of like arch and fin in the rear. You do not see that kind of styling anymore. I really love it. Looking at picture 26, I love this vintage badging with the Travelall nameplate. And there it is, picture 33, those barn doors. I prefer to call them ambulance doors because I'm a FJ guy, but these are really cool. Gives it a much more unique look versus a traditional tailgate. Love these rear brake lights here, just very simple, very traditional. This really is one of the more unique vehicles I've seen on Bring a Trailer. I would love to see one of these in person. Love this picture 48. You can see just how muscular this thing is. 35-inch tires and a lift. Again, with this glass, when you're in it, you must feel like you're in an aquarium. Now, looking at picture 60, with the 119-inch wheelbase with this vehicle, I don't think you're going to have much problem with storage. Love this retro grill in picture 62. Love seeing this logo and badging, what I imagine is original condition. 68 does a nice job showing not only the magnitude of this glass, but also that it's curved, which is very unusual. Picture 70, again, probably pretty rare to see one of these in original condition like this. So stepping into the interior here, picture 78, you've got this kind of retro dash in seating. Although it's roughly 15 years older, it looked very similar to the R Series truck that I saw today. Picture 80, I think we're seeing the hole the seller was talking about in the headliner. Again, pretty minimal considering the overall condition of this Travelall. Very unusual dash in this Travelall. It's almost concave. It's very unique. Speaking of unique, check out this 4-speed manual. It's a very unusual configuration. Like I said, this one does have air conditioning, which again, for 67 was probably pretty rare. There we go, a nice side view of this 4-speed manual setup. This thing would be an awesome beach or mountain cruiser. You literally just load up the family dog, you're ready to go with these bench seats. The interior does appear to be in very good condition. Like I said, a lot of cargo area in this 67 Travelall. Also, this is what I was talking about, these kind of scratches in the wheel well area, very minor. The consummate 3-pedal shot here in picture 119. So checking out the engine, this is powered by a V8. With obvious reason, I'm gonna have to look up the gross vehicle weight on this Travelall. It does get a reported 10 miles per gallon. I'd say that's pretty high for a vehicle of this magnitude. Like I said, the undercarriage appears to be pretty dry on this thing. Incredibly clean for 56 years old. Like I said, best in class with Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids is a minimum 100 pictures. The seller's done a very nice job giving a very comprehensive view of this 67 Travelall. So this is really cool. I'm actually seeing about 13 options. So the original base price of this Travelall was $29,6536. I imagine this is a pretty good deal at the time. And this is pretty impressive too. This is the line sitting ticket. You do not see this accompany many 56-year-old vehicles, let alone a 56-year-old truck or SUV. And if you want to haul something in this rig, literally it could probably be as big as a refrigerator. All you have to do is put that back seat forward. So taking a look at pricing for this 1967 International Travelall 4x4, I was surprised, and I guess somewhat not surprised, by just how few comparable rigs have been sold on Bring a Trailer. Looking only at the 3rd generation Travelall, there have been only 11 listed in the past 5 years. Hey, you heard me say in the beginning of the video, this rig is rare. The high water mark was 3 years ago for a 66 Travelall that sold for $27,250. I've got to think with the nice original condition, the overall rarity of these rigs, plus market inflation since 2020, that this 67, which is currently at $18,500 with a full 3 days to go, it's going to break records. Make sure to tell me in the comments, what do you guys think about this 1967 International Travelall 4x4 auction? Like I said, we'd love to hear your feedback on pricing and condition in the comments. Also, we are a new channel, and if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. This goes a long way to inspire the creation of future content. Thanks again for watching. See you next time for more vintage 4-wheel drives.